All right, I'm excited. I hope you are. It's time again for another episode of the SMC Journal podcast. It's a show that's all about performance engineering and IT today. And I'm Scott Moore, your host, and I really appreciate you joining me. Dynatrace releases the Holy Grail. Holy moly, I'm hearing more about this in my feed than anything over the last week. I actually heard about Dynatrace Grail in a user group meeting just a few weeks ago, right before it went live. And now it's been officially released and it's making waves and being called a game changing feature for the company. And because Dynatrace is a performance engineering organization, as far as that's their roots, they're expanding into other things. I'm very interested in this because Dynatrace is one of the companies on the leaderboard for observability platforms. So that's what we're going to talk about. And I've got a special guest to identify what exactly is Grail. Let's go beyond the architecture and actually dive into it a little bit more, talk about what it really is behind the scenes. But before we do that, let's talk about the sponsors that make this show possible. This episode is sponsored by Micro Focus and the LoadRunner Solutions family. That includes LoadRunner Professional, Enterprise, Cloud, and Developer. You know, performance matters. Did you know that LoadRunner Solutions have the largest community of practitioners in the world? Join that community at community.microfocus.com, scan the QR code, and check out the LoadRunner family page on performance engineering, as well as their YouTube playlist that we've got links for in the show notes on smcjournal.com as well as YouTube. This podcast is sponsored by Stormforge. The Stormforge platform focuses on AI-powered software designed to help DevOps teams release with confidence and IT leaders realize the promise of cloud native. That means faster innovation, higher quality, resiliency, scalability, and efficiency. Find out more at stormforge.io. This podcast is sponsored by Oracy Software. For over 20 years, Oracy, a DevSecOps innovator, has helped companies innovate, accelerate, and automate the entire software development lifecycle. Oracy AppSec and Oracy Cloud Solutions and Services offer full lifecycle support and integration to ensure scalability of transformative applications. Also, they're the makers of Oracy Labs, the train anyone, anywhere, anytime AWS Cloud Native virtual e-learning platform. Oracy works with hundreds of global brands as customers and partners, including Fortune 500 companies across a variety of industries. Find out more at oracy.com. Okay, back to the show. We're talking about Grail, a new feature released from Dynatrace. What is it and why do we care? I've got a special guest to talk about that today. His name is Bryan Chandler, and he is a principal solution architect for Dynatrace. Let's go to that interview now. Bryan Chandler, welcome to the SMC Journal podcast.
Hey, how you doing, Scott? Good to see you.
It's good to see you. So the big news out there that's a buzz on my feed right now, all about Dynatrace, is this new thing you've got called the Grail. It's not based on a Monty Python movie, from what I understand. It's actually a true product. It's a new feature.
Although you might have seen some memes on LinkedIn about that here and
Oh,
there.
it's coming. If it's not already here, it's coming. I'll be making some later
Right.
today. I do want to share with folks who are watching the show, we always share links of things that we talk about on either the YouTube video they're watching in that text or on the smcjournal.com. But I want to bring up the main page for when this announcement came up. Dynatrace is saying, okay, overcome cloud complexity through instant, cost-efficient, AI-powered analytics for observability, security, and business at any scale. And you can go through here and read through what it's trying to say. I also found on the Dynatrace website where you're talking about basically log management and analytics powered by Grail, and you're hearing more and more the words Dynatrace and analytics. I'm also seeing Dynatrace as a software intelligent company. It sounds like things are kind of changing. There's a tide changing at Dynatrace. But as I go through this, I'm trying to get through the marketing stuff, the buzzwords that we always see, and I'm getting a little confused. I think some other people are as well. So could you set the record straight for us? What is Grail and why do we care?
So yeah, to put it as simply as possible, Grail is essentially going to be, it is our new data store backend for the entire Dynatrace platform. And what it's going to do is open up all sorts of new use cases and help a lot of customers out that are having challenges dealing with, collecting all this data and managing all this data and analyzing all of it. So we're starting that second link you pulled up. We're starting with logging use cases for our customers, because frankly we've been looking at the market, and the logging market really is the one that's most hungry for disruption. And what I mean by that is that, we're talking to customers that are sending 10, 50, terabytes a day, even more than that, getting into the petabyte range a day of logs
Wow.
to, some of these other, yeah, it's nuts. These other, legacy log vendors, and, it's a lot, they're struggling a lot to just manage all of that. And there's all sorts of, just issues that classic logging solutions have, namely around things like maintaining indexes and schemas and dealing with hot storage and cold storage and retention policies. And then you also run into pitfalls like, oh, I didn't parse that field out when I ingested that log, and now I need to go run this giant report and search something, but I can't do it. Now I have to re-index all my logs, and that could take days, and or maybe I need to rehydrate all my logs, and that could take however that takes. So a lot of just pain out there with the current logging solutions that we're going to take Grail and really throw at. And like I said, it's just we're starting with logs. It is the underpinning of our entire Dynatrace platform. So think of all our APM use cases, our observability use cases, user sessions. We're not going away from that at all. In fact, Grail is just going to supercharge the capabilities and things you can do around those use cases, but we're just starting with logs. So does that
Yeah,
sound good?
but this
Make
is
sense?
something that has been built from the ground up as something brand new. It's replacing something that you've had in the past to make it even
Correct.
better, right?
Yep. Yep. So exactly. So, us, like many other vendors out there, and other, just in general, companies, depending on the data types they use, they're going to be using separate data stores. Our old data store under the hood used, some Cassandra for time series, a custom data store that we built for traces, and it was kind of just disparate data stores, and it works, and customers are using it, but we, with Grail, literally put a couple hundred engineers in a back room for a few years here and said, okay, we see all these problems, out there with managing and dealing with all this data. We struggle with it just like everyone else. We need to build a thing from the ground up. So yes, it is a completely built from the ground up, new technology, new backend that we built from scratch.
It's been described as a data lake house. Now, that's not a place I would go vacation at. It's something different. Can you describe what that really is?
Yeah, so there's a lot of uh, different data store types that are floating around there in the world, and you could think of, there's data lakes, and like a data lake, most people think that a data, you can put a whole bunch of data, petabytes of data in there. It's cost effective, but the kind of downfall of that is that it's typically kind of unstructured data, and you have to be able to structure and index that data to be able to search it. There's data warehouses out there that are really good at doing parsing and indexing for data that you're pushing into it, but it's not going to be quite as cost effective and efficient as a data lake when it comes to storing the data. So the idea here is, with Grail, we're kind of combining the best of both worlds of a data lake and a data warehouse into data lake house. So we're going to be able to address with all sorts of capabilities like parsing on read. Like we have some examples that maybe we can pull up here later, that you'll be able to run searches across petabytes of data on unstructured log files if you need to, and just really bringing some really good capabilities to the market with that'll take advantage of both of those, best
And
case.
like you
Yeah.
said, use cases. So obviously, the first thing I think of with Dynatrace is my performance-based information, infrastructure
Mhm.
monitoring, everything that's going on with my systems. It's going to affect how well it performs, how efficient it is, those type of things. But this is also for security. This is for lots of different things. This is basically for everything, right?
Exactly. That's actually a good point. You bring up the security use cases. So we do envision this being used by our customers, and they've been asking for it for forensics and audit type use cases. So a classic one is the team just discovered some malicious actor, and there's an IP address you need to go track down and figure out how long is this person been accessing the system for, and you might need to make a search that's 24 or 36 months in the past. Well, like older logging solutions, maybe you didn't index that field, or maybe you didn't parse out that piece of information, so it could be easily searchable. The advantage that Grail is going to bring is that those types of limitations are going to go away, so you'll essentially be able to run queries against massive amounts of data without those pitfalls. And yeah, it's going to be really advantageous for our customers out there. So audit and compliance would be good for that.
When you talk about how much data we're actually talking about, I'm really surprised. I shouldn't be surprised now about how much log data is actually being pulled by some companies on a daily basis. But the first
Yeah.
thing that comes into my mind is, wow, that's a bill. That is money right there. So how do you get all of this data and the access to it while still trying to basically save a little money? I know you got. I mean, is it a matter of filtering? Is it a matter of how do you balance between so much data and cost?
Yeah. So our lab folks are wizards. They've really went through a lot of pains taking advantage of the cost-effective services that are out there in the big hyperscaler public clouds, to really be able to zone in on making it cost efficient and cost effective. And that was one of the main things. It's like, if we're going to go to market and really make this attractive for our customers to help alleviate some of these pains that they're seeing with their current logging solutions out there, or and just data solutions in general, it's not enough just to have a shinier object to show them. It's got to actually be cost effective as well. So they've really used a lot of the cloud native services, like out in AWS, Azure, GCP, really honed in on the economics of which services are going to be best to suit these capabilities, and using massive parallel processing and scaling out wide to be able to run these queries efficiently. um, that's how we're able to basically do it at a high level there.
Interesting. So I know that this is making waves in the market, and I can prove that because I'm going to share this article here by the Motley Fool that just came out this October the 11th, so just a few days ago, saying Dynatrace is moving the ball in data analytics and cloud observability once again with the release of Grail. This analytics space is big and fast growing niche in the market, but Dynatrace's innovation could be helping shake the leaderboard. And it says you're disrupting Splunk by doing this. And people, I will share this article so people can read the whole thing. But I thought it was really interesting that that was the first take from the market coming back saying, "Hey, this is a threat to one of the biggest providers of log data out there," which is kind of amazing. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that we like I said, we talked to a lot of customers, and Splunk is often, if not the biggest bill in the IT department, it's one of the biggest bills in the IT department there. So customers, we've had a logging solution for a while now, but with Grail, what we can do is really go to a lot of these customers that have these massive ingest requirements, daily ingest requirements, and go to them and say, hey, we have not something that's not only going to be able to address those use cases, have it in context with the rest of your observability data that you're collecting with Dynatrace. I mean, that's super valuable, because if you're collecting traces and APM data, to have the logs in context as well with it in one UI instead of having to flip between the two is amazing for them. And then thirdly, hey, we can make it cost attractive for you as well.
Mhm.
So that's why I think that's we're really able to hit on those three things, and that's why I think we have a great opportunity here.
Well, this is exciting. You said that we were really starting with the log space, but there's a chance that we're going to see some expansion in the future. Can you talk anything about what the plans are? How you take this to the next level?
Absolutely, yeah, and just to stress again is, this is just the beginning. We're starting with these logging use cases. We're already talking about bringing this into audit and forensics use cases, which some preview customers that we have working with it today are exploring with. But ultimately, it is going to be the data store for all the data and telemetry you collect at Dynatrace. So APM, tracing, all the real user monitoring. It's the new backend. And then we're going to just, at that point, when you have, these types of capabilities on top of all these data, you have all sorts of other use cases. So out there in the world that you could use, just even from a business analytics standpoint. Another thing to bring up later on this year, we're actually bringing capabilities in automation. So you'll be able to, actually do advanced kind of workflows on top of all this data. So, just stay tuned for those types of use cases as well.
Awesome. I will be. And I'm wondering, do you want to mention any first wins that you've had around this or any success stories from customers that have started using this?
We do, yeah. So I got a couple customers down here. It's a rental car company, and then also an airline that's our customer. That they're basically able to take their previous logging solutions and recreate their searches and their dashboards right in Grail already today, right? So not only are they easily able to flip over and start utilizing analytics powered by Grail to replace some of those classic logging use cases that they had, but it's also, like I said, it's super valuable to them because now it's all their APM data, their real user monitor data is all right in context with it too, all in one UI. That makes it even more powerful. So yeah, super exciting. Our preview customers are really liking it
Seems like the
right now.
faster that you can map these relationships and even relationships you haven't even thought of before, quicker time to
Mhm.
resolution. And if you've got great visualization to sit on top of that, that's a winning combination, if you ask me. So that's great.
Absolutely.
So I just throw this out there. You guys had a user group in Tampa, and we spoke just a few weeks ago. In fact, Bryan is going to be on the performance tour in November. We're talking about SLOs, SLIs, SLAs, all that good stuff. But one of the things I learned in that user group is that Dynatrace is actually starting to pump up the user group community and kind of building that community. You want to talk anything about that? Because I know you're speaking at these, you're always out there evangelizing the message, but is the user group coming back now?
Oh, absolutely. And we're so excited about it because with all the everything that's been going on in the world the last couple of years, it took a while for folks to get back in the swing of things and man, yeah, it was great just seeing all the customers. It's one thing to sit on Zoom every day and see their faces on the computer, but it just completely changes things when you can see each other. And it's really valuable to customers too, right? Because they only want to hear so much from us, right? The actual vendor, they they want to actually talk to each other and then actually talk about the problems they're both solving together, and bounce
It
ideas
it
off each
reminds
other.
me of a lot of cool stuff
Yeah.
that happened in the past with some of the testing communities. It seemed like the observability communities kind of coming together in that way, but just to share information like how are you doing this, what's your best practice for this, that type of thing. Anything else that you're doing that people might want to, if they want to follow you or see what's going on with Dynatrace, you want to talk about?
So a couple plugs here. We'll be at AWS reInvent like every year. We'll probably have a big old booth to come by and have a demo with Dynatrace. And really, we always fly out our best experts out there. And then in February, we're having our big user conference Perform. So definitely check that out. The first couple days, especially, are always reserved exclusively for hands-on training, hands-on technical training for our customers. So not just a bunch of folks going up on stage and talking. There'll be a lot of that, but it will be a lot of getting your hands dirty with the product the entire day, instructor led. So definitely check that out. It's always the best, favorite part that our customers have during the
That
perform.
conference Perform was what actually launched my whole performance tour show and all the
Oh,
content that I do.
nice.
So I'm definitely interested in hanging out there in February. So maybe I'll be out there and can say hello.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
this is great.
sounds
Thank you
good.
so much for being on the show and explaining what Grail is. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about this in the market. And you're welcome back anytime on the show. Thank you for being on the podcast today.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Bryan, for being on the show today and explaining Grail. I hope that you learned something today about what it is and how it might affect you. And if you're a current Dynatrace customer, hopefully this brings a new level of interest in maybe how you're going to be using the product in the future. I'd like to know what you think about it, whether you're a Dynatrace customer or not. Give me some feedback. Here are the ways that you can reach me through either LinkedIn, through Twitter, at LoadTester is my handle. There's a URL to my profile, as well as contacting me through regular old email, help@scottmoore.consulting. Scottmoore.consulting is my website. And so I'd like to hear what you think about this. Is Grail really the game changer that it's been talked about to be in the market? You tell me. If you like this kind of content, you want to know more about the types of videos and things that I'm releasing, you like what I do, how about subscribing to the YouTube channel and give me some kind of, make a comment on the video if you like it or you don't like it, and tell me what direction you'd like for me to go in. I really live for your feedback and I do respond to it. So again, thank you for watching today's show. And for this episode of the SMC Journal podcast, this is Scott Moore saying bye-bye.